Chairman, I have an inquiry.
Well, the gentleman yields back.
But my inquiry is beyond what the gentleman is doing. I think a point of inquiry has to be addressed.
Is a parliamentary inquiry?
Yes, parliamentary inquiry.
The gentleman will state his inquiry.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, will there be an additional round of questioning today? Because I would dearly like for the chairman of the full committee to be here when I respond to his query. He called my name. I would like to respond, and I would like for him to hear my response. Will there be an additional round?
I think we haven't made that decision yet. We'll look at the time and the votes. It's possible, but if you'd like, I could recognize you now for 5 minutes as the ranking member.
Would you allow me to have 5 additional minutes? Because I have already some things that I'd like to say, and I'd like to have an additional round.
You, as everyone else, will have 5 minutes. So if you want to go now, I'll recognize you.
Mr. Cleaver, why don't you go to Mr. Cleaver and he'll yield to me.
Mr. Chairman, parliamentary inquiry.
The gentleman will state his inquiry.
Has the gentleman from Texas already used his 5 minutes?
He has not.
He's not spoken yet today?
No.
Okay, I'm sorry. I withdraw my inquiry. It was an opening statement. Thank you, Mr. Green. I apologize. Thank you.
That's quite all right. We all make mistakes.
The chair now recognizes Mr. Cleaver for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to yield my 5 minutes to Congressman Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I thank my friend, and he is dearly a friend, Mr. Henseling. I rarely call names when I make my commentary. But when people call my name, I'm going to have a response. I've been called out. So let's talk for a moment. There are people who are part-time freedom fighters, occasional freedom fighters. There are people who now want to take down the Confederate flag. I want to bring down invidious discrimination. The flag is but a symbol. We need to bring down invidious discrimination, Mr. Chairman. They had many excuses for not taking down the Confederate flag, just as we have excuses for why we have not dealt with banks appropriately in terms of invidious discrimination, and it's time for us to do it. All kinds of excuses for why that flag is flying right now at the funeral. Well, the body lying in state of a senator. What an insult. We can always find reasons to say, we can't do it, let somebody else do it. Let the Justice Department do it. This is the Oversight and Investigations Committee, Mr. Chairman. We have the power. If the Obama administration evaporates today, right now, it will not eliminate our necessity to do what we should do and can do. We've got the power. Ms. Love has said we ought to do it. She says that she wants to fight discrimination everywhere. We know that it exists in banking. Every single test that has been taken, and that's what we do testing. We send 3 people out. Would you please give me the article that I want to submit for the record? We send 3 people out, and we then find out how they are treated when they apply for these loans. And in every single case, minorities are being discriminated against. You can't find one where they haven't been discriminated against. If you do, there may be 1 or 2 exceptions. But this is what we need to do. This is our job. Let's not talk about passing the buck to the administration. I've heard people respond with a fatuous comment, and I say fatuous seriously. The fatuous comment of, when we can investigate the White House, then we'll investigate the banks. That is so fatuous. It's time for us to get serious about this. Taking down a flag and trying to pass the buck on to somebody else is not going to end invidious discrimination. Now, for the CFPB, I don't have any affinity for invidious discrimination and persons who might perpetrate it at the CFPB. I think that we should investigate it. I don't have a problem with it. I just don't want to end it there. And we've been doing this for over a year, and we haven't done one thing about the banks. Not one thing. And we know that people have been taken advantage of. All of the empirical evidence is indicating that minorities, blacks and browns, have been taken advantage of. With the yield spread premium, they were the primary victims.
Would the gentleman yield?
Of course I will yield.
I would just simply inquire, is there a specific law that the gentleman believes should be added to the books? Or I again posit the question, is the gentleman recommending that we bring in members of the Justice Department to find out why these laws are not being enforced?
So now it's about a law that we should promulgate to assist the Justice Department in some way or someone. I'm not sure I entirely understand the point.
If the gentleman would yield again, I'll try to make it more clear.
I will yield in just a second, if I may. I'm not advocating, are you saying we should have another law for the CFPB? Hardly. What you want is a five-board commission. You want to eliminate the position that Cordray has. But the point is this. We have the authority to do our job. Why would we point to someone else and say, we're not doing our job because they're not doing theirs? That's called passing the buck, Mr. Chairman. We ought not pass the buck. We're big people, boys and girls, as it were. And we ought to take on the challenge. Don't be afraid of the banks. The CFPB can't fight back. They're not going to be able to go out there and find somebody to run against you. Fear not. Move forward. Take up the challenge. The banks deserve to be investigated. Not all of them are culprits, but those that are have been for decades ripping off black and brown people. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back.